One night, quite a while ago, I was invited to a dinner at a friend's house who happened to be the nephew of Craig McCracken, the creator of Powerpuff Girls. The party was pleasant, and I was in for a surprise when Mr. McCracken himself was one of the guests. As a teenage girl, I absolutely was obsessed with the show. I would hog the TV for the premiere of every episode and yell at my younger brothers that if they so much as said a word before the commercial break. At being somewhat of a moody, spunky team, Buttercup was always my favorite out of the three girls. I love her sarcasm and her edginess. Upon meeting Mr. McCracken, I had told him of how of a big fan I was, and then I was so ecstatic to meet him. But he seemed very uninterested and was speaking in a vague, rushed tone, no matter what we were speaking of. I suppose it was because of all the show's fans could be quite annoying, so I backed off. Somewhere a bit later into the night, Mr. McCracken left it hurriedly, not even noticing that he left a small envelope with a single disc inside. I looked around it before taking the disc, thinking it was a possibility of this being another cartoon invented by the genius behind Powerpuff Girls. After the party was over, I rushed home to see what was inside this mysterious disc had in store for me. With my hand trembling, I lifted the shiny disc from the envelope, and my heart fluttered with delight when I saw what was on the DVD it had, Buttercup.AVI, written on it in purple Sharpie. Buttercup, as I said before, had always been my favorite, and I was incredibly anxious to watch this episode, that for one reason or another had not been released, but left next to the chair at a dinner party. I put the disc into my DVD player, and it started instantly. No title screen, no credits, nothing. The episode started off oddly. The colors had been dulled down to almost sepia tone, and the house looked all wrong. The windows were busted out and the walls looked dirty. There was even a small reddish-brownish footprint going up to the walls to the middle of the window. Confused and creeped out, I continued watching. The camera zoomed in on the house, to which it looked even worse than outside. Professor Utonium was sitting on the floor sobbing. He looked up at the camera and his eyes were looking too realistic, even for the most advanced animation at the time. And this was horrid, pained expression on his usually smiling face. Buttercup, what have you done? What have you done to your sisters? Why? He sounded generally like someone who had lost everything, and my heart was hurting for him. Behind him sat the corpses of Blossom and Bubbles, horribly mangled. Blossom was missing an eye, and the photorealistic blood dripped from her empty eye socket. Her limbs were broken and twisted at unnatural angles. Her heart had been cut out and laid beside her, and blood stained her pink dress where her heart had been. Bubbles was killed in a similar fashion, except for the fact that both eyes were missing and shoved down her throat, and her legs were torn off. Disturbed even more I had been in my entire life, I had began to feel a bit sick to my stomach, but I knew I had to keep watching. The camera then cuts to Buttercup, whose eyes were very realistic, like Professor Utonium's. She had an unusually heartless, bitter look in all those realistic green eyes, and a twisted smile on her face. She was stained with blood from head to toe. She tilted her head up very slowly, and when a maniacal laughter left her mouth, ringing throughout the room and into my mind. Didn't you see it coming, Professor? I'm sure all the four adoring fans did. She spat, sounding disgusted at the words adoring fans. They were so annoying with their constant happiness and their love will always being in the spotlight. Like always being nice, good, and perfect. I hated it for years, and it disgusted me. But not anymore, Professor. Not anymore. Professor Utonium continued sobbing, and the horrid sound got louder and louder until a green streak with silver glint flew across the screen. Professor had disembodied head, flew at the camera, his eyes staring directly at the remainder of the video, before cutting to black. Thinking it was over, I went to turn off the TV, but I stopped when I heard the sub-sounds of screaming and singing. Blossom and Bubbles' screams were quiet, as Buttercup's sound was loudly singing, "Hush, little babies, don't say a word. Mama's gonna kill you and make you burn. And if those corpses just don't burn, Mama's gonna bury you underneath the ferns." Throughout the words were cheesy, The sound of Buttercup singing and the eyes of her and her professor still haunt my dreams.